Enough.
Hey,
Enough.
a random aside, because you guys know how I feel about goats. Rest in peace, Pele.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, rest in peace,
Absolutely.
Pele. Yeah.
but it's
Yeah,
funny
that's a
because
good
you're
point.
talking about Messi and Ronaldo, and we talk about like the sort of the hyper concentration on who is the greatest of all time, but we only seem to focus on our own era. But it's funny because I made a comment when I shared it, and I said one of the goats, and then somebody's like, he is the goat, and I'm like, I don't believe in that. But it's funny because like 2 weeks ago, Messi was crowned the goat, and then Pele passed, and then all of a sudden he wasn't the goat anymore.
No,
Which
he's the king.
which
Yeah.
well, so is the goat above a king? Because that doesn't make sense to me. Because you can have multiple kings, but you can only have one
One
greatest
goat.
of all
Yeah.
time. So I don't understand. Because I
The
mean,
best
Holland kind of
universe.
put it best. He said everything you see people doing today, Pele did it first. And
He
then
set.
people tried to undermine it and say, well, Pele didn't play against competition. And it was like, I learned in the research that they didn't let Pele leave because he wanted to go to Europe and Brazil made him stay there. So it wasn't like but some of the best players in the world were playing there. So it wasn't like he was playing against scrubs.
He
So
still scored
it's
1,300 goals.
that it's insane, man.
Like,
That's
That's freaking
insane.
insane.
it doesn't matter what league you're playing in. He scored 1,300 goals. Like, what?
Well, I
Yeah.
thought it was interesting when I think it was Neymar that said, until you the number 10 meant nothing,
Yep.
but after you it means everything or something to that extent.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, when you have that kind of impact on a sport, and like I said, I think I said in our chat, the one thing about a legend dying is of what they represent dies a little bit too. It's not gonna kill the game of soccer by any means, but I mean, he's like the pioneer. I mean, if you truly, truly think about it, he is the pioneer to what we love today. And, it's, I know we have the GOAT conversation in it, and I think that is more of a generational discussion every time it comes up. But when you look at what Pele did for the game of soccer, I, how can you not say that he is
Oh,
soccer?
and it's funny to add a thing because I very seldom talk about race, but a friend actually brought it to me and they said, without him, you don't have the diversity in soccer you have. And some of the best players in the world now are recognized regardless of where they're from. And I think that's super important because I never thought about it like that. Pele was clear, he was clear. He didn't have a race to
Yeah.
me. He was clear. He's
Yes.
Pele.
Yes.
You don't,
Pele. Right.
like even Messi, like and I'm being honest, like
It's
Messi,
messy. Yeah.
I don't see him as like a race. He's Messi,
Yeah.
and
He's an
even
alien.
Well, they've
even
transcended. It's just
what
that they transcended
right.
every ceiling that every they ever had, every hindrance or you want to call it like anything that they're underprivileged about or
Yeah.
what socioeconomic class they come from.
None of it
They
mattered.
transcended all of
Yeah.
it. They are it is Messi, it is Pele, it is Ronaldo, or CR7. It is
Yeah.
they transcended it. They are an icon. They are a legend, and it's just that. It's I don't think a lot of people attribute religious figures to a certain like
And
race or identity. It's just
and
that's Thor.
Right.
and
Like that's
right.
who he is, and it's just that. It's those people are because they transcended. He did to the game of soccer what Jordan really did to basketball in the United
Yeah.
Right.
States. He made
Right.
it an athletic sport because he made it to where we had to apply science to the sport to
Right.
understand what was going on. And then once you apply science to the sport, you can create a Neymar, you can create a Messi, you can
Yeah.
create a Ronaldo because you can
Mhm.
figure out you can create an Mbappe because you figure out what the perfect physical specimen is to do that move over and over to run that fast to score that goal. You can
And
That-
apply the
just
math to it.
That's a
Before
perfect
Pele, there's
example
no math.
because who are we trying to emulate as kids? That's a perfect example.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
right. But see,
Well,
here's the thing. You know how the NBA has the logo, like the and it's Pete
yeah.
Maravich or whatever.
yeah,
No, it's Jerry
Jerry
West.
West. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. If there was a logo for just internationals, if FIFA had a guy in the logo,
Yeah.
that would be
Yeah.
But because it's weird, but not to cut you off, like because when Maradona passed, people was like, "Oh, is he the greatest?" And Pele never got bothered by that because he was friends with Maradona, so
yeah,
it didn't bother him. But it's just amazing because you look at And I don't think I wouldn't use the word better, but if you're comparing them, I don't see how I would compare Maradona to Pele at all. Like I just don't see
Maradona's
it.
the Ronaldinho of the situation. He
Yeah,
had 4 good or 7, 8 good years. Pele had a
Yeah.
career of
Yeah.
good years.
yeah.
I think one thing that you have to keep in mind is, the thing about sport in general, but soccer brings everybody together, whether it's a religion, whether it's ethnicity, countries, whatever it might be. And I think that when you talk about legends, icons, whatnot, I mean, we talk about for the badge, if Messi went to Arsenal, I would pull for Messi every time.
I would
Just
agree.
because
Transcend the hatred? No.
I just
No,
want
you
to
want
see
to
him
see it.
do well.
Yeah, you want to see it, man.
You
Yeah,
want
you
to
do.
see him do. You just want to see him do well. We talked about it during the World Cup podcast. Like deep down, the kid in us was like, "I want to see Messi win the World Cup."
Yep.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, it's the most liked photo in the world
Yeah.
of
Yeah,
him
it
holding
is.
the cup.
It beat the frog, baby. It beat the frog. No, the egg.
Oh, the
It beat
egg,
the
the
egg.
egg. But I think that's the thing that you have to realize when we talk about
Egg's
this
the goat.
GOAT discussion is what does that encompass? Does that encompass GOAT in terms of club level? Does that international level, or does it in everything? And that was where the conversation was, at a halt for Messi, because internationally he did nothing. I mean, he hadn't done anything, and now he's got the World Cup. Now, if you want to look at it compared to Pele, it's still not as good.
Here's a question for you guys, and I want to see how I'm very interested because Patrick, you actually just kind of made me have this revelation with that line of thinking. Who is the spirit? Who's the embodiment? That's your goat? Like for me, who's the spirit of the sport? Who's the embodiment of the sport? Who really transcended it to be God-like in the sport?
The
Who
funny
has
thing,
the realm? Who's sitting on in the heavenly 11 when they're sitting around the stadium as the Aztecs wanted to, when they forethought it and built the stadiums and played the games of the gods.
Nice.
When
it's
there's
funny.
gods sitting on the sidelines and there's an 11 playing because they're the best of the best. Who's the emperor of games? Who's the head of the Colosseum?
Yeah.
Who's giving the thumbs up or thumbs down at the losing team? Who's the spirit of the sport?
I think a
And
funny thing is I watched a video kind of going with what you're talking about, and I think the reason I would say Pele because when people saw him, they saw him. It was a 3D real thing. I mean, we saw Messi win, but how many times have you seen like I've gone to a couple of like European soccer team games, but and so to see the guys play is different because we're watching it on TV, so they're not kind of. I'm gonna send you guys the video I saw. They're kind of not real, you know.
yeah,
They're kind of like they're real people, but they're kind of not real. But Pele, everything we know when people talk about him, it was real. Like everything was like because they didn't have the technology, so you had to see him play.
the fans sat next to the sideline. There are fans behind the goal,
Yeah,
like
man. Yeah.
can literally get like holding umbrellas, like can touch the player. Like yeah,
That's
I
a great
think
question.
uh,
That's a great question.
I think that this is because we've hit 94 minutes here. I think this
Yeah.
is a beautiful place to kind of bring it to a close. A nice tribute to Pele, and I think my point on the matter is this: no matter who, I think at the end of the day, I'm beginning to see that Lewis is right, and the GOAT conversation is very subjective. And to your point, X, just look at not just the soccer world. Look at the entire globe coming out to say RIP Pele. Look at Will Smith coming out. The president of the United States comes out and says something about Pele. I loved Tim Weah's post where he was thinking when Pele responded to Tim Weah when he scored for USA and he reposted that. Just look at the fact what other sports star could have that many people telling the same story. Go back and listen to Robbie Musto and Robbie Earl's story about meeting Pele. Go back and listen to anybody's story about where they met.
Bless you, man.
Where about where they met Pele was just like one of the coolest experiences, one of the greatest things that they've ever happened. And I think X, you've nailed it because Pele is the one resting back.
Yeah. He's sitting back. He's the emperor of the games. Like he's watching 11. He's watching the best 11 play because he's beyond that. He transcended the sport. He transcended the idea. When Wembley lit up in Brazilian colors, when the Eiffel Tower is painted in Brazilian colors, and Pele did that for not only his country but for the game, he transcended what the World Cup was. It was just a tournament. It was just a nah. He brought it to that world class. We're a country in South America. You want to come up against the greats and the World War II, the World War I winners, the emperors of the world. I got you. I'm going to put 13 past you in the same tournament, and I'm going to take the cup.
Nice. Yeah.
Right.
Well,
it's just that.
He's definitely the heart and spirit of this game. Definitely the player we all love. Go ahead.
One last thing. One thing you have to remember is that he came to the US in the 70s and he played for the Cosmos. And to this day, I mean, people still talk about him playing for the Cosmos. When MLS was coming up with a team, they said they couldn't have the Cosmos because they would never have the type of players that the Cosmos had. And I think that's a tribute to Pele. But I mean, I I was watching something. I don't remember what it was. It may have been an interview that he did during the TV broadcast, and the guy just stopped and he's like, "I can't believe I'm talking to Pele." I mean, it just and we again go conversation whatever. It's above that for him. He is soccer. I mean, and I truly believe that a part of the sport itself died when he died. Not to a point that it's going to be gone by any means, but we lost somebody that probably will never have anyone at his level ever again.
Foundation of the game.
Yep. Like I said earlier, who are we all wanting to be like? Who's the first person you hear about when you play this game? It's like, I want to be Pele. I want to be like,
When you shoot a ball, it used to be, Kobe. When you kick one and you curler, it's Pele. You're like, it's just that. It's iconic.
Well, on that note, I know he'll be eternal. I know
absolutely
be remembered forever. Hopefully this podcast will as well. I hope you enjoyed
the Ethernet of eternity.
Yeah. Hope you enjoyed this one. Go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, get the notification bell on for all of the new episodes. Again, this has been the For the Badge podcast. Thanks for listening. Have a good night.